Are we ready? Are we ready?
Oh, we are ready.
We're ready. I think everybody's ready. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Vintage Wine Cellars, everybody, both live in studio audience and virtually. Scoot in a little, Dave. Live and in studio, broadcasting as always from our global headquarters here in Tampa, Florida. Live from our luxurious studio at Table 3, where we have room for our live in studio audience. Super excited to have everybody tonight. We've got a great lineup. We've got some great wines. We've got the winemaker, Jon, is going to join us here in a second. And I think it's going to be a great night. I've been talking with Jon the last couple of days, and the weather behind him is killing me. It's just so gorgeous in Napa. I can't wait to hear the story and taste some of these great wines.
So welcome to everyone. Thanks for being here in the store and being at your home also. We've been trying to do these hybrid tastings at least once every couple of months. So they're virtual and they're in store, and we are liking that quite a bit. So thanks to Kelly Cordes for setting this up. Her company is the marketing arm for the winery, and so we love to go to Napa. We go to Napa a lot, and so tonight was a special treat to have Jon with us.
Bring Napa here.
Bring Napa here. It's a long way away from here, so welcome. You know, a little bit of a change. The first wine that we're having is the Sauvignon Blanc, which we didn't think was going to arrive. I don't know if Jon even knows that, but it arrived really late, so we're sipping on that. And I think a few people who got kits also, I made them get a Sauvignon Blanc, so a little extra white wine to start this evening with, and it's absolutely delicious. I think it's the Miller's original spot. So anyway, cheers. And so we're going to try to stick to our somewhat of a time frame. So we have actually 5 wines to taste. I know some of you who got kits are only going to do 3, so let us ramble on about the Sauvignon Blanc to begin with, and I think the Merlot to end with, and we'll keep it all going.
Well, there you go. We'll tell you what, without further ado, let's bring Jon on. He's sitting outside the winery. Let me make sure I hit the right button. There we go. He's hidden behind that glass of wine. Hey, Jon. We can see you now. We've got you on the overhead, so everybody's watching you on the big screen next to us, and everybody online is seeing what you're seeing. But welcome. Thanks for coming.
What's that classic line? I have a face for radio.
There you go. There we go.
That's right.
Well,
welcome. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for joining us. It does look like you're in a beautiful place. Where are you?
So I am actually on the terrace of the winery, and if you don't mind 1 sec, I'll kind of give you a little view here.
Oh wow!
There we go.
There you go.
Let me get the full view of that. There we go. You're making everybody jealous here, Jon.
Oh, good.
I think it's a good commercial to come visit Silverado.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's sitting. It's about, I don't know, maybe 70, 78 right now, 75.
Wow.
Right.
Gorgeous.
Outrageous.
And no humidity and no bugs. We don't have bugs.
No humidity and no bugs. There you go. Magic words here.
Right.
Well,
if that doesn't entice people enough, I don't know what will.
There you go. Well, we did, as Dave said, we started, we actually didn't expect to get some Sauvignon Blanc in, but apparently the distributor came through and sent us some Sauvignon Blanc. So we actually poured everybody some Sauvignon Blanc as they were sitting down. It's kind of a surprise we didn't have it on the list, but maybe start us off. Tell us a little bit about the winery. Tell us a little bit about Sauvignon Blanc. Tell us a little about yourself.
Absolutely. What vintage are you looking at this moment?
We are
Is it the
2019, Jon, is what we're sipping.
2019? Okay. All right, great. Well, a little bit about the winery itself. We are celebrating our 40th plus year now as a producing winery in the Napa Valley. Uh, we were started in 1981 by family, Ron and Diane Miller, and you can see there's a picture of the winery. The Millers actually came to the valley in the mid 70s, and on some advice of some friends of Ron, some co-workers of Ron Miller. And Ron, Diane, and Lillian came up and started looking around, and the first property that they purchased was the Miller Ranch. It's about an 80-acre site that we have planted to Sauvignon Blanc and just a little bit of Semillon. And then 2 years later, they purchased the Stag's Leap District property. And in 81, we built the winery. And then they went on an acquisition mode and purchased an additional 4 vineyards, one in Coombsville in Carneros, where our Chardonnay comes from, and then one kind of in the Eastern Hills. It's not an appellation yet; it's still Napa Valley, and that's where the Sangiovese and some of the other interests, rosé, and some of those other smaller production wines come from. And let's see about myself. Well, I actually started in February of 1990 here. So this will be harvest 33 for me at the winery. So kind of interesting. I feel like I know the vineyards pretty well. And I think that's what really helps contribute to the continuity from vintage to vintage. I have a really quite seasoned staff that I work with. Our associate winemaker, Elena Franceschi, has been with us for 27 years. And our cellar master, Jose Gonzalez, has been with us 21 years. A number of the cellar guys have been with us for at least 10 years, if not more. So it just gives you a real level of respect and trust with one another. So it's easy to communicate when you trust and respect your coworker. So it just allows us to do some really fabulous work.
Excellent.
That's all I got.
Excellent. That's all. There you go. We got this is really nice Sauvignon Blanc. So the character of this is nice and mellow. Sauvignon Blanc can be a little bit of anything. It can be,
Right.
a little too grassy, a little too, a little too herby, a little too tropical. But this one, right up the middle, right, really drinkable, really approachable. A great
Right.
Florida wine.
And John, it's got this
Right.
little term on there. It's the Napa Valley, and it says Miller Ranch, but it also says Yountville. Is that a
Right.
resonated area in the wine world?
It is an app. Hey, you guys want to say hi to Florida? Say hi, Florida.
Hey, everybody!
All right. Yeah. So, it's an interesting area. It actually is an AVA. It's a recognized American viticultural appellation. You don't really see it a lot. It's kind of interesting. There's a lot of Cabernet grown out in Yountville, but closer towards the Eastern Hills, kind of the bench land of the Eastern Hills. Ours is right. Basically, it's our vineyards are right in the south of town. We're right next to the Joan of Arc Church, actually. So. And we have 80 acres there, like I said. And what I like about Yountville is I kind of call it a Goldilocks vineyard. It's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's just right. Because like you were saying, Jamie, if you grow Sauvignon Blanc in a really cool area, you can get kind of that really grassy and really, really shrill characteristic. And then if it's too warm, you lose the acidity, which to me is what is so charming about Sauvignon Blanc. It's all tank fermented. We don't do any barrels. And the way that we give it sort of that mid palate, I guess you would maybe call it texture, is we usually will add anywhere from about let's just say 4 to 6% Semillon is blended in towards the end of the aging cycle, and then
It's a little Bordeaux-esque there.
yeah, again, the Semillon is really used not to change the characteristic of the Sauvignon Blanc. It's really just to kind of round the palate.
We're here. We're doing a
Sorry, a little internal stuff
we're doing
here.
a wine glass change with our audience here. We've got we've got the white wine. The Sauvignon Blanc is being cleared for the Chardonnay. So we're dealing with logistics.
It's just the screen went blank, and I was just looking at myself.
I was like, it was not great.
No, we're here. We're here.
It was not charming.
Let's see. Okay. Well, let's see.
All right.
Yeah, there you go. There. Let's see. As we're pouring the Chardonnay, I know you guys make a couple of single vineyards, and this one, the one we've got, is the block blend. So I guess this is. Do you make this block blend every year, or is this this?
No, it's kind of it's a wine that we made. It was sort of a special request, and kind of for wine club folks, and that's kind of how we put it together. These are what's interesting to me about the block blend. I'm going to go back and talk a little bit about the vintage. So, as you may have read or have heard or talked to folks, California, we're sitting in the middle of a drought here. I don't know if it's the middle of a drought. We are sitting in a drought, and so we haven't had really great rain. 19 wasn't a particularly fruitful rain year. 20 definitely. So we did get just sort of the rain at the opportune time. So we weren't really in any danger in that sense, but we got it sort of right when the vines really needed it. So we were able to get through harvest without too many issues. The block blend, what I find really interesting about block blend, it comes from both vineyards that we have in the Carneros. The Carneros appellation is interesting. It's the southernmost appellation, but it also straddles Napa and Sonoma County. So we have a vineyard on either side of those, and they couldn't be more different. The Sonoma side's very flat and almost sandy soil, and the Napa side is kind of this picturesque rolling hills. The one that you see now, that's Meinberg, very flat, was actually an old abandoned apple orchard that we developed. You can see it's very straight. And then the Napa side is rolling hills and very picturesque, frolicking cows and wild turkeys, looks like. I don't know. But the blocks that we chose for this wine are kind of old California clones. There's Robert Young, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but that's an old California clone. And then some Wente clones. So it's kind of interesting. It's kind of a nod to old California. And the style that we make at Silverado is, again, we don't want to make a wine that's really cloying in the sense of being overtly oaky or too much malolactic. So it's a much cleaner, sort of pure fruit, kind of golden delicious apple and pear and melon, things like that. So clean.
Yeah, I get a bit of. Yeah, I'm convincing myself my palate is sensitive enough to taste the blend, because I get a bit of granny apple and lime, but I also get a little lemon curd, kind of lemony-esque.
Right.
And it's all bright and crisp. It's not overly tropical. There's like a little hint of something to kind of soften it up. But again, I think like the Sauvignon Blanc, this is, I mean, it's super drinky. It's just approachable,
Right.
nice, but still complex. I mean, if you start trying to do the tasting notes, I can name 2 or 3 flowers, 2 or 3 types of citrus, probably some apples, maybe even
Right.
some soil characters. So a lot going on.
And the texture on it too, John, is just really, really nice. It's kind of got a sleekness to it. It's
Right.
there's not a lot of weightiness. That's bad English. It just has this really bright and sustained finish to it. But again, kind of a really sleek style to it, which is beautiful.
There you go. What does
Yeah,
what does the crowd think?
There's not a lot of malolactic.
Yeah.
There you go. The crowd voices its approval.
So it has a little bit of mallow, John. You said.
But yeah, not much. I don't remember. I apologize. I don't remember the percentage, but it's got to be. I'm gonna say maybe 15% at most.
Right, and so and this is like stainless steel fermented and then put in barrel for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, so it's stainless steel fermented. When it gets down to maybe about 16 bricks, which is a sugar level, then which is usually the hottest part of the fermentation when it's going from 24, say, down to 16 bricks. It gets really, the fermentation gets really hot, can get, and so in stainless tanks you can control the temperature a lot better. Then once it gets over its peak temperature, then we go to barrels. And it's, again, not a lot of new barrels. It's only about 20% new barrel. And then the rest are 1 to 2 year old wood.
Very, very nice. I think we may have had it a little bit too chilled, but I think it's warming up and pretty quickly. And so that's going to just enhance it. But it's really it's a great. I think Chardonnay is more. This is myself is more food wine, but this is a great cocktail Chardonnay too. I could have this. I could without just with very minimal amount of food or just really to start by itself is really quite nice.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Great, thank you.
So you mentioned Carneros is this area that's a bit to the it has a Napa side and a Sonoma side, but it's all west of the main valley. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, it would be if you were either coming in from Sonoma or the Napa side. Probably the first appellation you're going to hit will be Carneros, and it straddles the San Pablo, San Francisco Bay. So it's very windy. It's cool, and it's a great place to grow Chardonnay, as well as you see a lot of Pinot Noir coming out of there.
Have you ever been tempted have the Millers ever been tempted to do Pinot, John, or maybe you do it on a small scale?
I will let you in on a secret. We have made Pinot. We don't own any Pinot Noir, but we have purchased some because the Millers were interested to see if we could do it, and then they thought, well, yeah, Vineyards, And, we did an okay job. I'm proud of what we did. We made it for about 3 or 4 years. And we actually do pour it in the tasting room, but it was very small production. We would make just a couple barrels of it. And in my opinion, to be a great Pinot Noir house, that's really what you need to focus on. And we made passable Pinot Noir. So it was a 3-year experiment that we decided that maybe we should focus on what we really do best.
Yeah, I know. Having been to a lot of Pinot Noir wineries, like a Pinot winery and a Cab winery, look a lot different. Open top fermenters on the Pinot side for punch downs, and it's just a whole different setup. Lot more vats.
Right. It was super interesting, though, Jamie. I mean, we learned a lot, and I wouldn't take back that experience, because you take what you learn and then you can apply it to the other varieties. So we learned a ton.
Right.
So it was super cool. It's only going to make us better winemakers.
There you
honestly.
Go. There you go. Well, do you guys want to start the Sangiovese? We've got our team making their way around the room pouring. Holly's out there too, but
so we're going to transition to 3 different reds coming up, everyone. So and we're doing a unique Silverado Vineyards wine coming up. So we're looking forward to this.
There you go.
There's a question. Yes, Kay.
Yes, Mr. Winemaker, I lost you. But we visited your winery in 2018, and it was lovely. But I don't remember being served the Sangiovese.
Sorry.
Okay.
So the question. We got a question from the audience, John. It was.
John, the question was, some friends of ours are here tonight who are big wine lovers. They were at the winery in 2018, but they did not taste this Sangiovese from Borreo Ranch. So was it just like maybe just a hiccup, or?
Probably because this is a newer wine, right? Is Borreo Ranch? So
So when is everybody ready, or can I start?
yeah.
Yes.
Please.
Okay. So actually, we've been making Sangiovese since 1992, and it went under a different looking label. And in, I think, 2018, don't know when we did this exactly, but we changed the label for a couple of the wines that we produced just from this vineyard. This is the one that's kind of not an appellation yet. It's just considered Napa Valley. It's east of the valley. It's up Soda Canyon Road. We have about 13 acres planted, mostly to Sangiovese. And the story behind Borreo is the original owner that planted vines back in the 1870s or so was named Felix Borreo. And he had a very large property. It was about 400 plus acres. We have a small section that also housed the winery, which unfortunately lost the winery in 2017. You can see it right there. That looks like that cube. That was his winery. It was called Bayview Winery, and we lost it in 2017 when we had the fires in October that sort of roared through the east side of the valley. So that was really a shame. But like I said, so we decided to. It's not really a line extension. It just gives it a little bit more of an identity because when people think about Silverado, they think more of the Bordeaux blends, and they don't necessarily think of Zinfandel and Sangiovese and Rosé of Sangiovese. So this was a way for us to honor the vineyard site, the heritage of the Napa Valley, the history of the Napa Valley, but staying, true to the wine that we make. And this is 100% Sangiovese. Very, very small production. We only make about 2,200 cases, so it's pretty small. I love our Sangiovese. When we first came out in 1992, it was a fairly crowded field in Napa. Atlas Peak was making somewhere in the neighborhood of 25,000 cases, and Schaefer was doing their variety was a little, I think, confusing. It was a little ahead of its time, and what they say, it's a 30-year overnight success now. So people are finally sort of understanding it, and they love it.
Well,
It's
we
a great,
didn't have
it's
it
a
then,
great
but it's a
wine.
nice surprise tonight. Thank you.
There you go.
Yeah.
We're hearing the crowd. The crowd is going wild.
Yeah.
Everybody give him a cheers.
Cheers,
There you
cheers.
go.
It doesn't have the nose that an Italian Sangiovese has.
So,
But it's good. It's tannic and everything.
Yeah.
But it's different than Italian Sangiovese.
right. So Mark made the comment that the aromas are different with this, maybe more subtle than if it was from Tuscany. But you're right. It's very zesty. It's very tangy almost, and I think it's really beautiful. And I know there's a rosé. I think you all do a little bit of rosé of this wine every year.
Right. Yeah.
John?
Yeah, we do. We make a rosé. We make a rosé of Sangiovese, and we also make a. We also do a very small Super Tuscan blend as well. It's called Fantasia. It's, if you read it, you'd say Fantasia. That's about 600 cases. That's usually, this is roughly, it's usually like 60% Sangiovese and 40% Cabernet from our Stag's Leap property here. And that is exclusive to the Disney properties and to the tasting room as well.
So John,
So-
those Sangiovese vines that Pierre Antonori had planted up there on Atlas Peak and Schaefer's, have they been transitioned? I mean, those are probably not planted to Sangiovese any longer.
They do not exist. Schaefer yanked it out, and I think put probably Cabernet. I think they may have even put some Syrah up there. Piero ripped it all out and put Cabernet. And I think there's some Chardonnay up there. I think he has a little bit of Sangiovese up there, probably for his wine club, because, they kind of invented the Sangiovese. They've only been making wine for like 600 years or something like crazy like that. So,
Wow, this is really delicious. It is very bold. I would say it's really young and but it's beautiful. It could probably last. It probably has a nice long cellar life to it. I would think.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this is it's going to be long lived. I mean, it has. I would like to comment on one of your guests. I mean, we're not trying to mimic, obviously, the wines of Tuscany because we can't, right? I mean, the soils are different and the exposure, and but I think it does have there is similar sort of characteristics for me in some of the bright tannin structure.
Yeah.
I think that you would find in a wine from Tuscany.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I was tasting this blind, I would smell it and immediately say Sangiovese, and then immediately second guess myself.
Yes.
Because it's one of those that I'd be like, oh, totally Sangiovese. No, wait. Not
Right.
it's not Italian. It doesn't have that earthing. It's got a little bit of that sour cherry. It's got a little bit,
Right.
that kind of, I don't know. I call it kind of the cherry pit. It's the sour cherry, but the cherry pit, there's that
Right.
woody note in
Yeah.
it.
John, how long does this spend in the barrel? Do you keep this in barrel?
No, it actually doesn't. So this is these wines where it really took us some time to really learn how to make it. Actually, sorry about that. It's walking. This is the best view of me.
There you go.
So it only spends about, on average, maybe 10 days on its skins, as opposed to like Cabernet, which will spend 16 to 25 days on its skins. We press it pretty early. It goes to barrel immediately, and usually it will only spend maybe 12, maybe 13 months in the barrel. And the barrels that we use, excuse me, instead of the traditional 60-gallon barrels, we use a 500-liter barrel.
Oh,
They're
Oh, like a big fooder.
yeah.
yeah. So they're about 2.5 times the size of a standard wine barrel.
Yeah.
Again, it's kind of it's what you learned in math class about surface area, right? As a vessel gets larger, the influence of the surface becomes less. So in a larger barrel, you're not getting as impactful influence of wood. So we find that that's really important because, again, it's something that we learned that Sangiovese is very similar to Pinot Noir. If you throw a lot of new wood, it's just going to taste like wood.
Right. Well, and that's one of the things that's interesting. It's the Italian wine. It's always hard to get the characteristic of Sangiovese because there's so much that's the characteristic of the wood. It's the characteristics of the climate. But
Can you guys see these crows flying?
oh yeah,
Oh, wow, look at that. Yes.
are they eating all your? Well, it's too early for them to eat grapes, but
No, they're just having fun. They're
Oh, look at that.
It's super cool. They're just enjoying themselves. It's really fun to watch. Wow, super cool. Anyway,
So
sorry about it.
but John, this does have kind of a Pinot angle to it, very definitely.
Yeah.
And when you tell me it was like 12, 13 months in the barrel is what you keep it for, that kind of led me to that too. Tracy, someone have a question? Oh,
Did Jamie see the comment that was up?
about the, I just think we have fewer commenters.
Oh, okay.
okay.
So we had a comment from our Facebook friends that says, "Hey, I only see my comments." But I think what happened is we don't have very many people on Facebook commenting because everybody's here. So it's only Carol. So
I was like, I see comments.
everybody-
I'll have to check.
everybody get on Facebook and everybody comment because it helps the channel. There we go.
Just tell them we're having fun.
Yes,
We're having
yes,
fun.
we
Yeah,
are.
everybody.
That's why we're doing it
everybody-
this way. So yeah, that's why we're doing it this way. So
There we go.
very, very delicious. So
Kind of nice to be able to.
yeah,
It's nice to be able to get back together
Absolutely.
again.
It is.
With
Absolutely.
people have forgotten. Like
so we
I've forgotten what it to be around people.
Yeah.
Well,
That's,
we really appreciate you being with us, John. So I think we're going to go to the two twin towers of the
Merlot first.
Merlot
right?
first. We're gonna do a change though. I think on your list for everybody at home. Maybe if we're mostly here, we're gonna do the Merlot and then the Cabernet. Is that correct?
We're going to do the Merlot first and then the Cabernet.
Okay, very good.
So we're reversing this. The powers that be have said, no, let's do the Crimsville.
There you go.
Yes. We had a big debate about this, Tim, about what we're going to do. We probably should have deferred to John, but anyway, we just made an executive decision. Yes, so we made an executive decision. Right, but I think Merlot, this Merlot is going to be pretty big, but we'll see. Yes. So here comes the Merlot.
All right.
Everybody would clean out their red wine.
There you go.
We're gonna switch it.
was trying to think of something funny to say. I decided to
Let me make sure some reason my size changed all of a sudden. There we go. We're gonna fix you. Sorry, we're fixing the sizes. For some reason, the size of everything changed here.
Yeah, it might be a blank
You get
screen
them-
again.
Jamie, you'll get down to Coombsville now.
We're
Yes,
doing the Merlot St. George.
Yeah, Mount George. Mount George.
Mount George.
Mount George.
Oh, typo.
You're right. We have to.
Mount George. Our production team, our print media team, had a typo.
Okay.
Well,
So John, we're
Yeah.
gonna go
yeah.
to a different part of Napa Valley, and we're gonna go to a place that the Millers have had a long time, right? Some vineyards they've had a very, very long
Yeah.
time.
Right. So we purchased this vineyard in 1988.
Really.
Planted it in 1989 before it was really recognized as an appellation. The appellation itself, Coombsville, was created in November or approved by the government in November of 2011. 2011 was a difficult vintage. It was one of those vintages that was pretty wet and rained throughout the vintage. So most wineries decided that they wouldn't necessarily try to launch the AVA in a more considered difficult vintage. 2012 was a spectacular vintage, so that was really the first time that you would have seen probably Coombsville on the label. We have a little over 100 acres there. It's a beautiful rolling hill, really uniform soil. It's probably one of our only vineyards where over the 100 acres the soil is really uniform from top to bottom. Mount George itself is an old dormant volcano. That's the highest peak in the area, and our vineyards happen to be sort of right underneath it, so that's why we call it Mount George. And you can see the pictures there. It's just a beautiful site. I love that vineyard very much. It's probably our second coolest vineyard next to Carneros. It is still rather close to the San Pablo Bay. So during the summer months, we'll get fog there, and it will be, the fog will kind of sit till maybe about 10:30 in the morning, and then it'll burn off. So a typical day, we'll start there maybe at 55 and get up to 85 to 90 and then cool back down. And I think that's one of the reasons why Merlot in particular does really well, because it doesn't get too hot there, and it really allows the vines to ripen at sort of a really even pace. As you go north in the valley, it gets much warmer and much hotter, and the vines, are put under a lot more stress. So we really feel that Merlot is a really good variety to grow in Coombsville. And again, it's a small production wine. We make about 3,000 cases, so we don't make a lot of it. This is 100% Merlot. We sort of put our sort of stake in the ground. If we're going to make Merlot, we really try to make sure it's 100%. And then again, it also is single vineyard. So it's single vineyard, 100% variety, and small production. And I think people are going to start rediscovering Merlot. The 18 vintage, which is a spectacular vintage. you know, if you have an opportunity, I would buy as much 18 Napa Valley wines if you can, because it's a spectacular vintage. And you can see our guests. Can you see our guests there? Hello.
There we go.
Being
Oh, there you go. Everybody's enjoying the weather. Everybody's enjoying the weather.
yeah.
Hey, make sure those people sign a release because we're putting their video on you.
I put it on the. Yeah, that's right.
There you go.
So one of the things I'm really proud of, this wine did really well. You know, we send our wines out to various competitions, and this wine was sent out to a competition in London wine competition, and it won best of show for California. So it's kind of a big deal. I'd buy a lot.
There
of
you go.
if I
Best
was
of
you.
show.
It's got a lot of depth to it, John. It's just really very complex. Got a lot of weight and texture. I know we had put it on the schedule here in the store. We put it at the end of the Cabernet, and I know it's a bit of a toss-up, but it's really big Cabernet. I think that's interesting, though. You're saying Merlot likes a slightly cooler climate than Cabernet does. Is that
for us, no. I mean, you can make very successful Merlot in a warmer climate, but the thing about Merlot, what is interesting about Merlot is that it's not Cabernet. The skins are a little thinner. It can sugar up really fast, but sugar isn't the same thing as phenolic ripeness. So to me, in a cooler area, they're sort of the trajectory is the same. So you're getting sugar, so your Brix is going up. At the same time, you want your seeds and your skin and pulp to ripen. And in a warmer area, it kind of does this, right? I don't know if you guys can see.
Yep.
And in a cooler area, it does this.
I see. Interesting.
Yeah, it's I think a little bit of that, left bank, right bank, Bordeaux. Impact,
exactly.
Right. It's a little cooler over there on the right side. So Merlot's a little happier.
Correct. Right. Yeah. I mean Bordeaux. I mean Merlot's the savior of Bordeaux because it can get sugar.
They have questions online.
So even when it's cooler, it's gonna get sugar. So in those years where maybe the Cabernet isn't as ripe as they want, there's gonna be a larger percentage of Merlot in those blends. So it's kind of the little grape that can.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this is super nice, super bold. One of the things I keep pulling up the map. Let me pop the map back up. The map is a little confusing because the top of this map is kind of the south. I don't know, what is that? The south whatever. So, Highway 29 kind of runs north-south, and we're seeing this isometric view of Fire Tree and Weinberg and Carneros. It's a little closer to the bay, farther south. Mount George kind of down Napa maybe on the other side a little bit in Coombsville.
So
Coombsville, basically, the appellation is kind of if this right here, my finger moving, was the city of Napa. The Coombsville appellation is a horseshoe, kind of around in the east side. So it hugs the Vaca Mountains on the east side, but very close to the San Pablo Bay. Yeah, that map is funky because it goes. If you're standing north, looking south,
Right.
so it can be a little disoriented. So everything that's sitting on the right side is actually on the east side of the valley, and everything on the left side is the east, and everything on the right side is the west side of the valley.
Right.
Because you can see Highway 29.
Yes.
On the
Yeah,
west side.
Highway 29 pretty much runs north and south.
Yeah,
So-
and as does the Silverado Vineyards.
There you go. Let's let's jump back. And I don't know why for some reason the size keeps
Size
changing.
of John
right
is
there.
changing.
There we go. But we've got, you're going to have to tell those girls to go to Vintage Wine Cellars and like and subscribe. Yeah. That's because they're getting a lot of airtime on the internet that they don't know about.
There you go. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
What can you do?
Yeah, there,
Right, there we go.
Everybody wants to be an internet star.
Yeah, there it is. We've got our 5 minutes of internet fame, or 15 minutes of internet fame. Well, I tell you, you say, one of the things that these virtual tastings have done is really open the door to winemakers doing what you're doing right now. And I mean, we have been able to get so many great speakers kind of join us virtually during lockdown, but even after lockdown, as everybody's kind of gotten a little more practiced and a little more open and acceptable to this. So it's been great for us here in Tampa to meet winemakers. I was telling, we had Dan Morgan Lee from Morgan. We had Daniel Dow from Dow. We've had the folks from Niner. I'm missing a couple of people.
Yeah, we've had a lot of
Robles.
Mina Robles. We've had some other folks, some Frogs Leap folks joined us one night. So we really appreciate, John. It's great to talk to somebody right, where you are. It's like Jamie said, COVID or not, lockdown or not lockdown. I think we want to do this as a permanent way for all of us to enjoy wine, enjoy tasting wine with you, and it's great to be coast to coast. And I know Florida's a big market, but we don't get enough winemakers and enough winery people that come. A lot of them go to South Florida. We're in the central part of the state, so we're really happy to have you. Yes, another question, Kay.
Something like to go to South Florida. I'm not a huge fan. I'd rather go to Tampa, actually.
Okay, good.
Give me Tampa. Give me Tampa any day. Seriously.
Sorry.
I'm not.
We've got a question from the audience. I was just explaining that our microphone setup here is built so that they can't hear, that you can't hear the audience. So she's going to ask a question. We'll repeat it.
I'm very impressed with his long tenure there. What has been his favorite wine?
She's very impressed with your long tenure there. What is your favorite wine?
Whatever you're buying.
To make or to drink or both?
To make or to drink or both. There we go.
To drink. Right. That you.
There you go.
that you
Okay,
made.
so what
You made and
wine
drank.
that you make do you drink most often? There you go. That's a good question.
Yeah, very good question, Kay.
That's
Thank
a great
you.
question. I would say actually probably the Sangiovese.
Ah.
Wow. That's not what I expected.
I lost Jamie. Jamie, I lost you.
There you go. I'll take it off mute. We were trying to get the wine the wine pourers back in to start pouring the cab.
Oh,
Here it
got it.
That was
And
it?
David said, people said thank you for the answer
Yes.
to the question. One more question from the audience.
Yes.
Tried to make a Brunello with the Sangiovese.
Oh, have you tried to make a Brunello with the Sangiovese?
Well, no.
Mark, I think some people up in north of you, John, probably doing like Mendocino and Sonoma maybe try to do that. I think they are.
Yeah, I just don't think that really represents the vineyard. And when the Millers started this winery, they had an opportunity to call the winery anything. They could have called it Silverado Winery. They could have called it Silverado Cellars.
Yeah.
But they chose Silverado Vineyards because they really understood that the source of wine is the vineyard. So the production staff really takes that to heart. And so we really want the wines to reflect the vineyards and what's coming off the vineyard. So if we're trying to do like a Brunello, that's really, it's not necessarily representing the vineyard. It is representing the grape, but there's a lot more influence of, you know, say barrels and what the winemakers are
Yeah.
inputting into the wine.
Yeah, that's what.
I don't know if that makes
No,
No.
I mean, it certainly does to me. I feel like the Italian wines are the tradition that's grown up over 100 years of dealing with the climate, of dealing with what you could get, you know, and just the symbiosis that's created. It's you know, that is part of the terroir in Italy, is the barrel and the aging and the, you know,
Right.
and it's not the part of the terroir of Napa or California.
But I
Right.
think it's just amazing that you still do this Mediterranean varietal, though, John, because
Period, yeah.
you know the Mediterranean is a very special place, and those, you know, Tempranillo and Sangiovese and Barbera, those things don't really grow anywhere else except in the Mediterranean. All right, we have two more questions from the live in-store audience. Mark, sorry, Tim, you were next. But
Yeast that they use, the culture influences the flavor and the bouquet of the.
Does the yeast? How much does the yeast influence the color, bouquet, flavor, etc.?
Right.
That's, you know, that's a great question. I do feel that yeast. We do experiment with yeast. Everything we do inoculate everything. We do a little bit of feral yeast for some of our Sauvignon Blanc. Sometimes a little bit Chardonnay, just to experiment. But yeast it does matter, because the fermentation can have different length of fermentation, which does give you flavors and textures. Yeast matter, and we do experiment every year with one or two new yeasts to see if we can make the wine better. So look at specific yeast for Sangiovese versus Merlot versus Cabernet. So we don't use just one sort of generic yeast for the wines. They are very specific, and they're specific with research and experimentation behind it.
Right.
And they
Another
do
question.
add flavor, do add texture, absolutely.
One more question.
another
sir?
question, Tim.
Is Silverado still family owned? And if so, how do you keep the next generation involved?
There you go. Is Silverado still family owned? I think it's still by the Millers. But how do you keep the next generation involved? Is there going to be what's the future hold for Silverado?
Currently it is still family owned. The rest of the question is beyond my pay scale. I can't answer those questions.
There you go.
I'm not involved with the family. I mean, in the sense of, you know, I don't sit down at the table and discuss the future of what the family's going to do. So,
Well,
all I can say, we're currently owned by the Miller family.
Very
Well,
nice.
let them know that if they're ever interested in selling, there's a group of us here in Tampa that might want to chip in.
Okay. All right.
We might want to
Okay.
like crib together a couple bucks and see what we can make happen.
All right.
We'll probably have to reach out to some other folks, but we'll try.
Well, let's.
Okay, I will pass that along.
There you go. Let's taste this cab. So we got the cab in everybody's glass.
Right.
We're drinking did we get the vintage right? We've got the
Yes,
2018.
we did.
This
2018.
is this is the estate bottled cab.
Yeah.
What do you-
exactly?
Tell us a little
So
about
the
this
estate. Sure. So the estate cab is truly, I mean, it is Cabernet based. It's 88% cab, 7% Merlot, 3% Petit Verdot, 2% Cab Franc. So it's sort of our, and this is in air quotes, sort of our, you know, Bordeaux blend. But it is mostly Cabernet fruit from around the winery in the Stag's Leap district, and the other Cabernet coming from our Coombsville property the Merlot, Petit Verdot, and Cab Franc, all coming from the Coombsville property. So it's a nice blend of Daxley fruit, Coombsville fruit, and other varieties.
There you go. So give us the varieties again, and do you have like a rough percentage? Do you remember for the 2018 what the blend was?
It's 88% Cabernet Sauvignon, 7% Merlot, 3% Petit Verdot, 2% Cabernet Franc.
What we're drinking?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. What we're drinking.
88% Cabernet, okay, and then I think Merlot was the second, Petit Verdot, sorry,
And then Cab Franc.
Cab Franc.
2, 3.
All right, there's a question.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, one question was, John, do you ever add Carignan? Is there any Carignan planted?
Carignan and
Carignan is not a
No.
fruit board varietal, but
we do.
No.
no.
No, it's not. So no, we don't grown variety.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
All right.
and we actually, and it's one of those wine club wines, but we
Yeah.
one of the kids has a small vineyard, and we're making a little bit of Grenache. That,
Oh, so they're making some
There
Grenache
you go.
and some Carignan to blend that with.
Very
Kelly,
good.
you had a question?
Yes, I wanted to know
Yep.
if you could ask John real quick to talk about the number 30 Disney clone for Cabernet that's
the number
30.
30 Disney clone. So we've got a question
Yeah.
from Kelly about could you tell us about the number 30 Disney clone for this cab?
I can. Can you? Where's Kelly?
Kelly is like off.
Kelly has to stand over here.
She's off. Oh, there she is.
Well, there's Kelly. Oh.
Kelly, been doing a little bit of research. You're kind of a little nerd.
No, I am a nerd. I'm a Disney nerd.
She's a Disney nerd,
Yeah.
she says.
Okay. So here's the story of the 30 clone. In the late 80s, early 90s, phylloxera came to the Napa Valley, and most vineyards were planted on a rootstock called AXR. AXR was supposed to be resistant to phylloxera, but it turned out that it really wasn't resistant. So what happened was vineyards were getting pulled out in really rapid fashion. And named Phil Freeze, who worked at Robert Mondavi, he was a viticulturalist, was really concerned that some of the heritage clones, sort of field selections, were going to get lost to time. So he contacted somebody up at UC Davis, the nursery at the University of California, Davis, and said, we need to save some of these clones. So they did a survey. They talked to winemakers and winery owners and viticulturalists and vineyard managers, and they ended up with 3 clones that they felt were significantly important to the history of Napa Valley. One was Nebom Coppola. Second one was Tokalon. And the third was the Disney Silverado clone, which then became morphed into, if you were to order it now, it's called UCD 30. And so that's the origin of, so mostly what's planted on our Stag's Leap property and a little bit over in our Coombsville is either original C selection or UCD 30, which is a virus-free version of the clone.
Wow. Kelly says thank you for geeking out with
Yeah,
it.
John, that was good. No, that was awesome. So, John, some friends online, Tom and Carol Patterson, sent in a question. Is the Cabernet blend about the same year to year? Sometimes more Merlot, sometimes more
Yeah.
Cab Franc, Petit Verdot.
Yeah, It is pretty consistent. It's usually 85 to 88% cab, and the Merlot. Some years there may be a little bit more Merlot and less Petit Verdot and Cab Franc, but it's usually, I'm going to say it's usually at minimum 85% Cabernet, and then the Merlot is the secondary player in the estate, but it is fairly consistent.
And do you ever try to make, like for those other really small percentage varietals like Cab Franc, do you ever, probably for wine club maybe, do you ever make like a pure Cab Franc or a pure Petit
Right.
for
So
club?
right. So we actually do make Petit Verdot on its own, Cab Franc and Malbec in small production for wine club, available at the winery.
Very good. More questions. Kay first and then Mark.
Questions coming in.
I'm backing up a little bit, but earlier you used the term inoculating the yeast.
Yep, inoculating
I'm familiar with
yeast.
that term. Could you please explain it?
So the question was inoculating the yeast. I guess the question is are you inoculating with commercial yeast, or are you letting it? Are you using wild yeast? What does inoculate mean?
What does it mean?
I got it. What does inoculate mean?
You take a syringe,
basically
stick
means
it into the muscle, and then I can tell you.
Into the vats, into the tanks.
Got it.
So we have a yeast where it's a packet. It's a packet. You open it up. You add it to water, certain temperature water, which has to be very specific. You let it sit for 20 minutes to 30 minutes. It starts to warm up and grow, and then we take that and basically you pitch it into the tank. That's what inoculating means.
It's like waking up the yeast?
So, well, if you think about if you've ever made bread, you
I haven't.
you never made bread. Okay. Well, yeah, so the
Mean-eater.
yeast is typically, whenever you buy yeast in a packet, if you're using a commercial yeast, you have to wake it up a little bit. So it comes in a pack. So you get it in some water, you give it a little bit of sugar, it wakes up, and then once it's going, you right temperature of the water, right temperature,
Yeah.
right, and then you put it in the vat, and it
Yeah.
goes crazy.
Right.
Mark.
Then it goes, oh my God, look at all this sugar. I'm in heaven.
Cab Sauv blend to a Médoc.
Okay, so comparison. So you spent some time in Bordeaux, right? So the question is, how would you compare your Cab Sauv blend to a Médoc, or maybe I'll take a question a little farther. Was there any Bordeaux inspiration, obviously in the blend of the grapes, but maybe some thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's hard to do those comparisons. First of all, it's not fair to France to compare California to France because honestly our weather is better, our growing conditions are better. Typically in France during the growing season and harvest they get a little bit more rain, and we don't. So I don't know. I mean, for us, what we're really trying to do again is be true to the vineyard site and the variety. If we say our wine is Cabernet, we want it to taste like Cabernet. So when you taste it, you're gonna go, yeah, that's Cabernet, as opposed to, gosh, I wonder what variety that is. There's a lot of wines out there that have the variety on the label, and you couldn't tell. You say maybe it's Zinfandel or Syrah. So I think for us, what we're trying to do with Cabernet, I think the Bordelais, their cab tends to have a little bit more herbaceous character, and I think we're trying to make sure that we don't lose some of that. And then the structure, the acidity is really important. I think that's what gives Bordeaux also the recognition that it deserves, and we're trying to do the same thing with making sure the wines are going to be able to age for 10 years.
There you go. And I think this one definitely I could put in my cellar. And actually, I got to look. I think I've got a double magnum of Silverado from probably 15 or 20 years ago in the cellar. And then I was looking at the website. You can buy like a 1990, 1989 5-liter off the website at a really reasonable price.
Yeah. No, I know. And that's the thing, when you have a winery that's 40 plus years old, we have a great library, and we're not charging, I don't think we're, charging outrageous prices for these wines that have been stored impeccably here,
right?
In a proper environment. The thing is, when you buy older wine, say off like an auction site, you don't actually know how it's been stored, right? But I know the wine here has been stored at 55 degrees, nice humidity.
Right.
It hasn't been,
moved around.
Not moving around
Right.
a lot.
Hey, John, is Cabernet the largest production of the varietals that the winery makes?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Sauvignon Blanc and the Estate Cab are the two largest production. Cabernet for us, an average production of Cabernet is 23,000 cases, and that's about the same with the Sauvignon Blanc. It's about 23,000 cases plus or minus, depending on vintage.
I think we had one more question.
One last question. I know we're running out of time too, because I don't know if you still need to get to the Healdsburg Wine Fest, but we're keeping you.
I do.
We're keeping you. We're already 10 minutes past the hour, so.
Yeah.
One last question.
I got a dinner.
Yeah.
There you go. One last question is about climate change. How are you guys feeling climate change there? I mean, obviously forest fires and fires, but what else?
Fires. Well, one of the things that we're doing is we are looking at varieties that, like, as an example, we're planting in Yountville. We're planting 15 acres of aromatic whites like Chenin Blanc and a Muscadet and Sauvignon Vert. Varieties that perhaps will come off earlier.
Right.
So we're looking at things like that as well. And again, I really feel we're maybe situated better than some other wineries because I feel like our vineyards tend to be in a cooler, closer to the San Francisco Bay. So we kind of are cooler Napa than maybe the guys up in, say, Oakville, St. Helena, Calistoga, which could get really, really hot.
Right. Well,
John, thank you very, very much. I know you got lots to do out there. It's been awesome to talk with you, really. And taste through.
I want to say, let's cheers for John from everybody. Oh, let me get the camera on everybody. There we go. Yay!
And we'll all be out to see you.
Yeah, we'll definitely be out to see you.
Maybe sooner than you want or think, but yeah, we will.
That's fine.
Yeah, we're all planning trips. All you needed to do was show that camera around, and everybody started booking tickets.
You got it. You got everybody.
That's it. There you go.
Very cool.
All right.
It's all.
Yeah, we'll do our next virtual from there.
Thanks very much, John. I think he's yes. Awesome. Cheers.
All right, for everybody online, John, we appreciate it. We end every tasting with a toast. Everybody, cheers. We'll see you next week. John, thank you. Travel safe.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Bye.
Cheers. See ya.